Hello, and welcome back to Assassin's Creed Shadows. I am your host, Angel, and before I get into some gameplay, I am going to pause for a moment. You can skip ahead, I'll leave a timestamp of the video where you can skip to the actual gameplay in the description. But I did want to talk about a issue that I've seen, that I'm sure a lot of people have. Um, just leaving a note for myself. That I'm sure a lot of people have with this game. I've said it a couple times now. It's very much like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The mechanics, the UI, a lot of how this game runs is just like Valhalla. Personally, I think this Animus screen is a lot like the new Hitman game. In like where you can see other things. Like I'm so tempted to go to the Valhalla one and look at the whatever it is that pops up because it's not access. It's not a game. So I'm wondering what is it. And so with that, a friend of mine just this morning posted in our group chat saying something along the lines of that Assassin's Creed Shadows is getting ripped apart in the reviews. So I decided to go look at these Steam reviews. I'm not going to look at any other types of reviews, not reviewing websites or anything like that. I'm looking at the genuine player reviews. And it is currently listing at 81% of the 6,450 users' reviews for this game are listed as positive. So it's at a 4 out of 5. I give it 4 out of 5. That'd be a great rating. Like I would say that's about accurate for what I would give this game. Yes, there's some repetitive things, but ultimately like I don't see a problem with it. So, we're going to look at two different reviews. One that is listed as not recommended, then one that is listed as recommended. Actually, we're going to look at a third because I had the same problem. So the one that was the third is not recommended. They have zero point 0.2 hours on record, but now they have 3.2 hours on record. I'm not going to name names, by the way. If you want to go find the review, then you can scroll and find it yourself. The initial post, which was yesterday, said, or not yesterday, yes, yesterday, said paid $60 and can't play the single player game due to Ubisoft Connect Classic. And there was a response from the developer. Yeah, I did have a similar issue. Whenever I tried to load the game, Ubisoft would not load because how this game loads is a Ubisoft Connect window opens first and then it it loads the game. I just had to reinstall Ubisoft Connect because you have to use that for all of the other Assassin's Creed games. Um, so yeah, that's a user error. I think ultimately, like I figured that out on my own. If you're not willing to take 2 to 3 seconds to figure out what the problem is, it's very clear the game is not the thing that's having an issue to load because the icon at the bottom is the Ubisoft Connect icon, not the game. So I'd say that's user error. So first we're going to look at the not recommended review. A little bit of info. He has Windows 11 Pro. I'm running Windows 10 Pro. He has an AMD Ryzen 7. I'm not going to give all the details, mostly because I don't know what all of it means. But I have an Intel i7. His RAM is 64 gigabytes. I think I have 32. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4090. I'm running a 4060, but same thing. He has 5.5 terabytes of a HDD and 1.8 terabytes of an SSD. I don't know why that matters why you're listing both of them. I have this game installed on my SSD. I don't remember what the size is, but it doesn't matter because it installs. It has room. Driver, game ready driver, something. Don't even know what that's for. Monitor 1, that doesn't matter. Monitor 2, he has fancy monitors that Like, I have a $90 monitor and a free monitor that was given to me, which is not even, like, it's discontinued. And the $90 monitor that I bought is, like, the basic level of resolution, and it works great. And it says, even on this setup, I'm still dealing with frame drops, UI bugs, busted stealth mechanics, and unstable performance. If you're not on a top end system, good luck. I am not, in my opinion, on a top end system. I would say that I have equal to or less than what this guy has in a system. So now to the actual review. And I'm going to read each paragraph and respond accordingly. So he says, I was genuinely hyped for Assassin's Creed Shadows Samurai, Shinobi, Feudal Japan, 2 playable characters. It all sounded like a dream. But after spending 2.2 hours in the game, yes, I'm going to continue pushing through just to see if it gets better, I'm honestly frustrated and disappointed with what's here right now. Not much to respond to. Continuing. Let me say up front, the game is installed on my SSD, not a slow drive, so performance issues aren't on me, yet somehow load screens are constant. You'll hit one just for entering a building, talking to an NPC, or moving between zones. I even had stuttering in cutscenes and making weird FPS spikes in the pause menu. I've already dropped my settings to medium high just to smooth it out, and this is on a top tier machine. That's a lot to deal with. First of all, when you install this game and you load it for the first time and you're setting up the initial settings, it actually tells you that it's recommended to install it on an SSD, because I initially had it on my HDD. So that, cool, you installed it on a faster drive. It tells you to do that. And in terms of the load screens are still constant, every Assassin's Creed game has been like that. That's how a lot of these games are, so that you have, like, the cinematic views are also technically load screens so that you can see something while it's loading the world around you. Like Skyrim, similar to that. Like, everywhere you go, there's going to be load screens. I would say there's something wrong with your computer in some fashion, or how you have the settings. If it's, or maybe it's your internet, because he doesn't give what his internet is. I pay like $120, $110 a month for internet. I don't know what I have. I have Comcast. Like, I don't pay the highest tier, but I pay enough because, while it's just me living here, I have a lot of, like, little gadgets that all connect to the internet, like my thermostat and whatnot. And I know that each of those items, while small, still eats up a channel on my Wi-Fi. So I'd rather have like the proper amount of channels that I need, and I have a decent speed. I don't go above this speed. Like, I don't need a higher speed than whatever it is that I currently have, and I'm not gonna look it up. So I would say that they're probably having internet issues. Um, Load screens are constant. You'll hit one after entering a building, talking to an NPC, or moving between zones. I just had stuttering in cutscenes and weird FPS spikes in the pause menu. I think possibly into doing that as well. How full is your SSD? You say it's 1 point whatever terabytes. How full is it? Because my SSD, other than a few minor things, it's empty. Because I use it for the higher tier games that I play. But most Steam games I install on my HDD because that's my largest hard drive. But, and you don't need, like, a high tier storage for Stacklands. So I would definitely say that I think it's probably that he's using up more of his storage than what he should be. Because it sounds like the game doesn't have enough room to move. Like, to describe it in simple terms. Bear in mind, by the way, for this entire set of reviews, I am not a technical person. I understand the basics of computers enough to get myself in trouble. So I understand the basic purpose of a hard drive, RAM, CPU, GPU, all of that. Like I understand the basics, but the differences between a 4090 and a 4060, I'm lost. I don't care enough. But it does sound to me like the game is acting as if it needs more room to move. Like the clothes it's wearing are just a little too tight. So I would say free up some room on your hard drive. Um, Continuing on. Oh, one other thing. He said that he has the settings dropped to medium high. I can do that right now. Look at system. What are my systems at? Video. Display, field of view, calibration. We're not going to deal with calibration. Borderless window so I can record it. Oh, and by the way, I'm recording. I don't know if he's recording, but I am recording. Which means that my system is using up more of like its resources as a whole while playing the game. So this is the resolution of my monitors. So maybe it's because his monitors are at a higher resolution too. That's another thing. I have it at a lower resolution, so there's a cap because of my monitors. So maybe I'm able to use more resources because I have a lower resolution. Maybe he needs to lower his resolution. Um, Frame rate, audio quality, blah blah blah. I have the ray tracing on low because I don't care about ray tracing. Overall preset is medium. Diffuse everywhere versus hideout only. I don't see a difference with that. I don't really see why it needs. I don't see much difference. Oh, it actually undid that. That's cool. Cool. I don't really see much reason for the ray tracing. Yeah, so I have it on medium to begin with. So if he's having issues with, whoops, with his game, it's because of other things. I think he needs to free up some space on his hard drive, possibly. Uh, Lower the resolution, definitely, and possibly needs better internet, or check how many channels are being used on his internet, because I have like 3 or 4 different smart outlets, my TV, my PlayStation, my thermostat, um, my computer's wired in, but my laptop, whenever I turn it on, eats up another one. My phone, I have a little robot named Vector, and a couple other things that use like, oh, my video doorbell. Like, these are all things that you need to factor in when you're getting internet, is how many devices are going to be attached to it at any one time. Yes, my TV's off. Yes, my PlayStation's off. So, okay, don't count those. But when they are on, both of those are hooked to the Wi-Fi. My thermostat's always hooked to the Wi-Fi. My doorbell's always hooked. My those 3 or 4 outlets, they're always hooked. They're used to time my different devices and lights so that I don't waste power. My fan, I have a fan that's on one. So it's like, I think his Wi-Fi is getting bogged down and he needs to lower his resolution. So continuing on, I'm going to try and do a little faster for this. Combat is recycled and underwhelming. True, but there's also a fuck ton of enemies. So I don't really see how that's a problem. Like, if you, like, for me, I know that a lot of the same finishers that Naoe is doing is because um of how I do the game. Like how I kill people. Cuz if I kill them from stealth, it changes the finishing move. So the finishing move is entirely dependent on how you kill the person, like where your position is, what button you used to kill them, what attack you used, how hurt you are. Like there's a lot of factors that go into it, and I just happen to be getting the same finishing move. Yes, it's annoying, but the other option is just having no finishing move. And yes, I would like to have no finishing move sometimes, but it gives you a bird's eye view of the area around you where you're invulnerable. So you can kind of use it as a cheat, sort of. Because remember, in the last video, I got hit while doing a finisher on someone, and I didn't take damage. Because it's the cutscene mechanics. You're in a cutscene, technically. Plus, I'm sure those finishing moves act as loading screens. The same animations repeated constantly. I saw the same beheading sequence within a first handful of encounters. Yeah, that was Yasuke. Enemies stand around taking turns to attack you. Yeah, because when people as a group are coming to attack someone and they're wielding swords, you take turns, because otherwise you're going to hit your allies. Like, I don't know why people get upset with enemies taking turns. Yeah, they take turns, but they don't. It's not one person attacking you, and when that one's dead, the next one steps up. No, it's attack, attack, attack. You're getting ping-ponged between 3 or 4 enemies. That's why I like to stay back, because I don't want to get hit. Because, yeah, you blocked one dude, but then this dude behind you is now attacking. Parrying feels sluggish and delayed, and one of the first tutorial prompts, the lunge attack, literally launched me into a wall where I got stuck. Reload. Great first impression. Why were you right next to the wall? But yeah, I agree. Parrying does feel sluggish and whatnot. A little bit, maybe? That's why I don't do it. Ignore the issue with hand-eye coordination. Stealth gameplay had potential, but even that feels broken. Half the time, the assassination prompt just doesn't show up, even when you're clearly in position. Okay. Take in the last video, I was standing behind that brazier, trying to assassinate the dude on the other side. I had an item between me and him. My issue is that there's times where you assassinate someone when you shouldn't have been able to. Like, there's times where I'm like, yeah, you can possibly hear where the guy is, but he was underneath me. Like, there's no way for Naue to see where he was, and yet she was able to flawlessly attack. Like, no! That's not how that works. So, I don't see his issue. Worse, the enemy marking system is totally unreliable. Trying to tag enemies during stealth doesn't even work constantly. The only time I had issue with that was during the Kujikiri? Yeah, Kujikiri. But, okay. Just be aware, you don't have to tag them. The pointer won't load, and when it does, it often untags enemies moments later, making planning your approach feel pointless. I think he's experiencing new enemies showing up that walked into the area since he tagged people. Because that's what's happened to me. And since this same aiming system is used for throwing knives, no, it's not. It's extra frustrating when you can't even line up a shot properly because the UI decides not to cooperate. There have been several times where I didn't even have the pointer on the enemy. They weren't tagged. And I didn't have them highlighted as, like, the next assailant. I was like, whatever. And I just chucked a knife at him, and it hit. There's only been a few times where I missed, and even then it was because my pointer was way off. So the game does help you a lot with that. Story-wise, it's painfully flat so far. You get to play as Yasuke for about 10 minutes, then the game shuffles you into Naue's revenge storyline, which lacks punch and quality, and quickly falls into cliché. Cliche things are things that are overdone. They're overdone because they are pertinent. This is something that legitimately happens. And sorry to say, cliche sells. If you want something unique, you run the risk of no one being interested because they've never seen it before. I love a good revenge storyline, and I think they're doing it very well. Like, of course, you expected. Once I started collecting resources, I knew it'd be just like Valhalla, where you have like a homestead type thing that you got to build up. So, okay, collect resources, raid enemies and whatnot, and I'm more curious as to who. Like, there's been several times where I've reached like an encampment sort of, and we have two different sides that are fighting and killing each other, but they both will attack me. So I'm wondering who. I know who the one side is. Who's the other side? And why are they attacking me? So I don't see a lot of his issues. The writing is dry. The characters don't grab you. Well, no, they're a character. And the pacing is slow. Ubisoft really thought dumping 45 minutes of cutscenes into the first 3 hours was a good idea, and honestly, I found myself zoning out during most of them. He's talking about the prologue. I did one video on it, which, yes, it is a lot. But after that, like, yeah, there's cutscenes, but it's not like you have to wait for the story to develop. Every other Assassin's Creed game has been like that. My biggest issue personally is I want to see where Naue gets the techniques of the hidden to be able to use the assassin's blade. And why doesn't she have to cut off her finger? That's the running thing of Assassin's Creed, is that the hidden ones, the hand that they use the blade on, they had to cut off, I think it was their middle finger, because of how the blade came out underneath. Like, yeah, you could move your hand back, or you could just leave your hand in the way, but if you remove the finger, now you're not going to cut yourself. So now you can, like, hold your hand up and then stab someone, and you don't have that issue of your finger being in the way. And it was a rite of passage. Like, once you earned the right to be called a hidden one, you had your finger chopped off and it was healed. So I don't see how she's using it, how her father was using it, without doing that. Because they answered that with Eivor. Eivor had it on the back of her arm, and she was using it to, like, punch people and whatnot. But Naue's using it the traditional way, and she's still fine. So that is something I legitimately have issue with. Trying to find where I was. And don't even get me started on the voice acting. The English version just doesn't land. I'm not using the English version for that purpose. It's the same issue a lot of people have with sub versus dub on animes. If you want something to be authentic and it has to do with another language, watch it in sub. If you want to be able to be distracted and do other things and multitask, then have it be dubbed, and you just know that you're going to have a quality issue where the translation may not land. Sucks to suck. Deal with it. And they said, I get that the actors are probably native Japanese speakers, but it sounds off. I swapped to Japanese audio with subtitles and had a noticeably better experience. Yeah, because it tells you, because it's immersive. Even then, the facial animations are stiff, like they belong in a 2013 game and it's 2025, and somehow the characters still look like they belong 2 generations behind. I don't agree with that. I will say, and this is not me being racist, or at least I'm not trying to be, but Japanese people do for a very long time in life have very smooth skin, and I have seen at least, and I'm not talking anime, I'm talking like real life people, like live action. I've seen where, like, the cheeks and whatnot, like, I don't understand it. I don't understand how to describe it in a way that doesn't make me sound terrible, but their facial features don't crinkle the same way European facial features do, or Hispanic or Latin or anything like that. Like their faces, a lot of Asian people's faces, their facial features are very smooth. And especially under the eyes, like that portion of the cheeks. And that is translated very well into this game, but it does tend to lean towards the idea that they don't have very good facial like expressions, which allows for people to like a lot of the expression is in the eyes with Asian cultures. And I agree. This game makes use of that very well. I do see what they're saying of the like almost robotic quality, and yeah, that I can see it to a point. But my argument to that is it's a video game. You're going to get that in any video game, even current games. Like that's just how it is. Like I'm playing Order 13. Does the cat look exactly like a real life cat? No. Did Stray look like a real life cat? No. You can see that it is digital. What he's complaining about is the digitization. You're not going to be able to get away from that. Um Indiana Jones. I'm playing that right now as well. And in Indiana Jones, we all know what Harrison Ford looks like. We all know what Tony Todd looks like. And yet those two actors look digital because they stood in an animation booth, had their facial features like recorded and modified and whatnot so that they could actually play these roles. But in order to move it with a computer, you have to make some sacrifices, and that's what it looks like. Like, we don't have the technology yet to make it be one for one exact. And I don't think that any of these characters in this game are computer generated. I think you get more realism from entirely computer generated characters because the computer made everything versus most of it, and it's a mashup. So I get what they're saying, but I disagree with the sentiment. The open world looks nice, sure, especially during winter, but it's hollow. Towns are lifeless, NPCs feel like background decoration, and the map design is just more of the same Ubisoft formula. It's rinse and repeat. Loot this, kill that, clear this camp, unlock that area. Every open world game is like that. Like, I'm sorry, but that is how every open world game is. If you want something that's more, then play a on rails game. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And of course, it wouldn't be Ubisoft without the cash shop shoved right in the main menu. 5 armor bundles on launch, skill trees locked behind paywalls, premium currency littered throughout the world in a single player game. It's frustrating to see them invest so much in monetization instead of fixing core gameplay systems. If you paid full price or went deluxe thinking you'd get everything, surprise you didn't. I didn't expect to get everything. You're still encouraged to drop cash for cosmetics and boosts that should have been unlockable through gameplay. You've played 2.2 hours at the time of making this review. You don't know what's unlocked through gameplay. And I did get what I paid for with the deluxe version. To Ubisoft credit, the follow system for NPCs is a decent quality of life feature. Yes, I do like that. But honestly, it's the only thing that feels like a step forward. The rest just feels like another iteration of old ideas with a shinier coat of paint. I'll keep playing for a bit longer, hoping that something changes or future patches improve things. Like, I still like this game. There's potential buried under all the clutter. But as it stands right now, it's a beautiful but broken experience that doesn't respect your time or your wallet. 5 out of 10. Looks nice from a distance, but once you're in it, it's all style and no substance. Like, my issue with his final statements was, wait a month or two? 4? Like, you didn't have to buy it on release day. Like, this game was... Like, that's the issue I have with people making these reviews, is you're paying for the ability to play it first. That's why the price is so high. You're not paying for a top tier quality game. Top tier quality, I would say, is like 30 to 40 bucks in terms of like the amount of the $60 game that's going to that. I would say is 30 to 40 bucks. The remainder of it is because you wanted to be first. Otherwise, you would wait till it's on sale, get it for half off or whatever. Um, so I think yeah. Moving on. I might make this its own video just because I don't know, I'm not really I'll make this its own video at this point. Going back to memories so that we can sit here and look at Naue because she's pretty. Alright, this other person. At the time of the review, they played 16 hours. And they have 20 hours on record now, so they played 4 more hours after this. The good. They did the good, the bad, the ugly, and the conclusion. And they rated this as recommended. The good. The graphics are nice, yes. The landscapes are a lot better than the old trilogy. Every step and angle looks like a photography. It's no longer a grass plain with a few rocks and trees. They are all interesting to explore and appreciate. The new cutscenes are great. I like how the protagonists participate in social events, parties, and meetings from feudal Japan. It makes these stories and characters more believable, very immersive. Touching story with interesting character development. So far, the best story I've seen in an AC game in a long time. Less Ubisoft-like icons, a way more natural and dynamic approach to exploration. Loot is less important, so leaving chests behind on outposts is not as punished as in the old trilogy. Finding chests now feels interesting, not a chore, which is nice. More varied gameplay loop, no longer based merely on visiting outposts, killing everyone, looting everything, finding the next outpost. We now have housing, dynamic events, interesting side activities, more variation. Optimization is great. This game is running the same tech as Monster Hunter Wilds, which shortens development times at the cost of performance. However, AC Shadows runs pretty much as good as it can with the tech it's using. The bad. The combat style has received some tweaks, and I still don't think it's a soul. The combat style has received some tweaks, but I still don't think a Souls-like combat gameplay fits Assassin's Creed. I don't entirely know what they mean by that, unless they're talking about it being very punishing. And they say, the gameplay is supposed to be immersive, cool, and badass. It should focus on looking realistic, cool, and badass, not on focusing on the enemy and rotate around him, watching for a parry like this is Dark Souls. Stabbing an enemy 67 times in a realistic, immersive game like Assassin's Creed feels off, and these janky, goofy-ass Souls-like combat animations are absolutely immersion breaking. My response to that is don't parry. Like, you're calling this bad. Chat, how many times have I parried anything? Like, I parry very rarely whenever I feel like I have the chance to practice. If I have more than one enemy on me, I'm just pressing Alt the whole time. We're just alting this way out. So, I don't see that issue. It's not Souls-like to me. Like, if you're saying the actual mechanics is Soul-like, I don't see it. Because a lot of games use parry mechanics. It's not just Dark Souls, and Dark Souls wasn't the first to do that. It's just that I would say maybe Dark Souls is the first to depend on it, but I clearly make the argument that you don't need to depend on parrying. Naue is the true protagonist, not because Yasuke isn't cool or anything, but because he is so heavily nerfed in core mechanics he can't even reach some of the collectibles. Yasuke can't climb and he is almost useless in stealth, while Naoe can do everything and she is simply a little bit less effective in combat. But she can still parry, block, and deal damage. I like Yasuke as a character, but I'm having such a difficult time playing as him. Not being able to parkour nor do some basic stealth on an Assassin's Creed game is horrendous, and such a huge nerf compared to what Naoe gets, which is simply a small combat damage reduction. There are not a lot of reasons to play as Yasuke. Well, let's continue. There are not a lot of reasons to play as Yasuke, and I think most people will simply stick to using Naoe. I think this has not been properly balanced nor considered, and it kind of destroys the whole point of having two protagonists. My argument to that is, one, I haven't played as Yasuke, so I don't fully understand what they're talking about yet. But the little bit I did play as him and what I understand of him is he's not necessarily two protagonists, it's you're playing as a person on each side of the war. So yeah, playing as Yasuke isn't going to be the same as playing as Naoe. It makes sense that he can't sneak because Oda Nobunaga isn't trying to be stealthy. Yasuke is the embodiment of Oda's entire, like, war. It's the I am going to stomp around and trample and conquer the land. Whereas Naoe, she embodies the plight of Iga, of I am going to do what I can, what I have to survive. I am going to be sneaky and use subterfuge and bite and claw my way to freedom. She has to struggle. Yasuke doesn't. On top of that, yeah, Yasuke's a big beefy dude. Of course he isn't gonna stealth and all that and climb. Plus he's wearing a fuck ton of armor. I don't think... Plus... there's the... What's the word? The political issue of a game making a black man climb trees. I can already see it now, of the world going up in arms over that. So they're just like, no, we're not going to do that. Nope, not even going to try. So I like that. I don't have an issue with it. I would say there is more than just a damage reduction with Naoe in terms of combat. Naoe gets hit heavily. Like, Yasuke has the power and like the beef behind his attacks. Naoe is a little girl. She has to rely on technique to get the same kills, and if she takes a hit, it's half my life gone. And when I was running the original equipment, like the starting equipment, it was over half. Like, I was down to, like, in the red zone after one attack. That's not, like Yasuke, I'm pretty sure, can take several hits without worrying about damage and all that. So I think there's more than just a little bit of a damage reduction. Excuse me. So, I heavily disagree. I do agree that Naoe is someone who people will probably relate to more because she's the underdog. I don't know what Yasuke's storyline has. Perhaps he joins with her? Do you fight with her? Do you, is he against her or is he with her? I don't know what his path is. Is he one of the hidden ones? Does he get a blade? I don't know. I can't say. They did something similar, by the way, in Valhalla. Except in Valhalla, it was Eivor, and then when you were, there was a time where you got to, like, go into, like, a trance, sort of, and you played as Odin in the Norse pantheon. They didn't call him Odin, I forgot what they called him, but it was an alternate name for him. But yeah, it was Odin you were playing. And you're running around in like you were in my brain died. I don't want to say Valhalla. Was it Valhalla? Somewhere. You were in the gods world, running around solving shit and fighting things. Like, you were Odin. Now, were those two things happening at the same time? No, it was more like a memory, but also not. But it just, this isn't a new thing to have two protagonists. And yes, Eivor was the main protagonist and Odin was a side one. Now they're saying the ugly. The game has a pretty weird personality I don't fully enjoy. It tries to incorporate Japanese action and scenery elements typical from manga or Japanese cinematography, mixed with an intention of feeling youthful and modern. The mixture is weird and I don't know how to feel about it. I think it would have been preferable sticking to an OG PS3 era Assassin's Creed style or a full classic Japanese personality in the style of Ghost of Tsushima. This weird modern middle point is a little bit awkward sometimes. Well, I don't really understand what they're talking about there. I don't see the issue. The only thing I can maybe equate it to is this is supposed to be set. Like, this game is technically set in the future. Not when you're playing as Naoe and Yasuke. That's in the past. But even with this loading screen, you can see it's in the future. And you're looking at the past. So that's, I think, where the disconnect is coming from. They said the game has some minor but frustrating bugs. Sometimes the music stops working and you have to quit and re-enter the game to get it back working. I've also encountered some instances where I assassinate enemies, but they get up again with full health, putting an end to my stealth run. Yeah, I did have that issue last game. Pretty sure they'll get these fixed soon enough. It's still a very polished game, and I've not encountered any more major issues. While the new dialogue cameras are great, they still need to work on expressions. They still feel a bit soulless and robotic. Okay, that's just gonna be a thing. Um, Conclusion: pretty good Assassin's Creed game so far. Enjoyed it a lot. Fixes a lot of issues from previous Assassin's Creed RPG games, such as those uninteresting landscapes which now look amazing in shadows. Um, but also carries some of the issues from those ones, such as the absolutely horrendous combat system. It has some rough edges, but it's a pretty good Assassin's Creed game, and in my opinion, the best RPG style game they have released so far. Absolutely recommend. I am still partial to Valhalla. I really enjoyed Valhalla, and while I haven't finished it, it's just because I got uninterested with it. I get distracted a lot, so that may be why. But I still prefer Valhalla just because. Excuse me. I know a lot more about Norse mythology, and I enjoyed the Norse mythology of the game more. But this would definitely be my second favorite in terms of like histories and whatnot. Um, I'm waiting if it's going to be anything like the other Assassin's Creed games to see where they bring in the people from, like, nowadays. Like, we have the Animus and whatnot in the menu. Where's the present day gameplay? So, sorry this game was so boring, or this video, not game. Sorry this video is so boring, but my ultimate reaction is I agree with the general populace of Steam of 4 out of 5. It's not the absolute top tier favorite game. It's not perfect. But it's worth the money that you spend if you're gonna spend $60 to $80, or $60 to $90 to play it day one, like I did. By the way, this bottom kunai is technically not being held, and that one's only being held by the one string. that top kunai is the only one that's able to be held properly. But yeah, I would give this a 4 out of 5. So far. I disagree with a lot of the issues people are saying, because It just doesn't make sense. Like the one person had like gave this as a not recommend because they couldn't figure out how to fix Ubisoft Connect. That's not even the game's fault. That's Ubisoft's Connect program. I don't like that developers are making these separate programs that you have to install that run the game for you. Like you open Steam, you open the game, it opens this thing, this launcher, which then opens the game. I don't like that. Like just give me the game. So, oh well though, I guess. Um but yeah, go ahead. If you guys have any issues with what I said, leave it in the comments. Um, Now, time to get to the actual gameplay. And yeah, I will see you in the next video.